like panicking today because the weather isn't right to make the video that I wanted to make. Not even like make the video that I wanted to make. Just record the parts of the video that I'm going to make, I guess. I don't know. Yeah. The weather is, I mean, look, it's fucking beautiful. It's beautiful out there. But, like, it's not, you know, look at this. Oh, shit. I mean, it's not, like I said, it's not bad. It's beautiful. It's wonderful weather. It's just not the kind of weather that I need to do. Maybe if I drove to the other end of the bay, because it almost looks like there's some breaks and pause up there. But, like, I got hiccups. And that might be a problem, because we're trying to record, you know? But what can you do? You can only do what you can do. I'd like to try to get this done, you know, maybe on the first go. It's unlikely. I'm thinking that this is going to come out to like 45 minutes to an hour. Probably like the last one. This is going to be an on-screen quote, so you know what to do. No one would argue that streaming video games is a revolutionary act. David Arditi. Subscription platforms and the unending consumption of culture. Like, what would a YouTuber sound like? What would a YouTuber sound like? You know, that's what I'm trying to affect here. What the fuck does a YouTuber sound like? Depending on who you ask, digital media is either going to save the world or destroy it. People tend to lean towards the destroy it side. It's a lot like the 90s scare about video games causing gun violence. Often, when we encounter new technologies, it's easier to be frightened and resist, to become reactionary and jump to the worst conclusions, than it is to try to understand what motivates people to act in the ways they do. Remember, it's not that Florida has unique public records laws that allow information to be broadly accessible to the public in a way that most states do not allow. It's that people from Florida are uniquely awful. I want to understand the culture of content creation, but in a way that is more particular and more useful to us than think bad or think good. I can call something revolutionary, and I can call something counter-revolutionary, but these are both cop-outs because they ignore the intricacies of human interaction. They ignore the places where things intersect and become complicated, and it is in that complexity where my interest lies. In all things we do, we are haunted by the specter of capitalism. And if I can get some kind of like Monopoly Man, maybe like a transparent Monopoly Man, I don't think I know how to do that, but it's okay. In all things we do, we are haunted by the specter of capitalism. I call it a specter because most people don't believe in ghosts, and the people who do believe in ghosts need a lot of proof before they will admit a ghost exists. And in this way, capitalism as an ideology is invisibilized, and we don't see the way it impacts everything we do and how we can and cannot think about things. So how does the specter of capitalism play out within digital media? This video will in no way be the end of this conversation, but I hope to pick up a few threads of conversations that have already been happening, weave them together, and maybe give you a new way to understand things, a way you might not have thought of before. And I'd like to do it in a way that encourages us to come to these situations with empathy, understanding, and recognition that we are all people in process, capable of growth and change. Like I state in my last video, that hurt people, and accountability must come from within. I cannot hold people accountable for the harm they have caused, but I can try to understand the broader structures and ideologies they're participating in, often without even knowing. So this won't be a call-out video. Nobody is being canceled. Call off your hordes, because I'd rather not have to batten my hatches. Because today, we are going to talk about people. And the thing is, people gotta eat. And like, sometimes, I don't know what I want to do. There's too many things that I want to do. But sometimes, other times, right now, I want to do a thing, and I can't do it. And I'm freaking out because I can't do it. And like, I could do other things. I could do this. I'm doing a thing right now. This is a thing that needs to be done, and I'm doing it right now. But at the same time, there's still that obsession in the back of my mind. Like, why am I not doing this other thing? People gotta eat. The coercive influences of capital push people to behave in ways that they would not otherwise. This does not mean that people are not accountable for their actions, but rather explains the conditions of living under capitalism. In my last video, Making My Peace, Speaking My Peace, I spoke about the ways that liberal capitalism coerces us into silences. Silences which we must break by speaking our piece, to make our peace. How often we don't even understand the ways in which we've been silenced. But why? Why do we have to be silent? Often our survival is contingent upon our silence. Liberal civility politics don't just prevent us from speaking, they prevent us from speaking in ways that rock the boat or challenge authority. Stick it to the man or speaking truth to power are important activist memes because they acknowledge the silencing that occurs and they present this challenge of authority, even challenging the necessity of authority. The necessity of holding up a system in which so many of us are silenced. Even this project is going to be run through the approval of various professors in the liberal institutions, so there are limits to the extent that I can voice my ideology if I want the money and time I've invested to not be a complete waste. But understanding that is important. More important is us as viewers learning to read for those silences. What is a piece of media not saying? What can't it say? What can't it do? We like to think the possibilities are endless, but there are all sorts of systems in place. The copyright system, critique from our peers, audiences, and other systems I haven't quite thought about, but that you can list in the comments below like they should have been obvious to me. There are systems in place to check and critique and postpone and prevent our behavior, to coerce us into making standardized projects instead of, whatever weirdness we could be making. And sure, we will still make some of the weirdness. But there is a specter, the specter of capitalism, which haunts us. Creators aren't just making fun projects, they're making content, which carries this ideology and practice of capitalism. And so when we consider the culture of YouTube or Twitch, we need to consider it with that specter in mind. In The Labor of Visual Authenticity on Social Media, Exploring Producers and Audiences' Perceptions on Instagram, Mars et al. Describe the phenomenon of the micro-celebrity. Social media enable anyone to reach large audiences, broadening users' followships out of their personal context. Regardless of reach, however, all social media use is a public performance to some extent, and thus strategic. By selecting which information and images to share of themselves, users engage in acts of performative micro-celebrity, practices which arguably amp up their popularity. Marwick describes micro-celebrity as a continuum along ascribed to achieved micro-celebrity, with the latter referring to the self-presentation strategy directed at an imaginary audience. This includes perceiving all social media connections as fans or followers, continuously live streaming the everyday, sharing personal information, and fostering seemingly intimate relationships with them, as well as creating an affable brand, which offers their audiences a sense of credibility. This self-branding focuses on individual uniqueness and aims to create favorable and easily accessed associations in consumers. This includes marking out a specific niche topic or style that microbloggers can be associated with, as well as a careful curation of various social media profiles to create a coherent public image. Mars et al. 2. Ideology is an invisible hand, a guiding force, and it shapes everything we do. Unlike legacy media, new media is structured to place production centrally and squarely on our shoulders to individualize the content process, to make each creator their own production studio, advertisement agency, and PR firm. We are simultaneously creators and viewers. We are micro-celebrities. And out of this weird mess comes a weird culture. Internet culture. Culture comes out of any social formation where people get together to do things. We can't help it. We love inside jokes and shared knowledge, and we are precisely attuned to this culture because we have very specific considerations and demands about what the cultural products that are created must look like. So, what do they look like? I was visiting my grandparents in July when Miranda Sings scandal broke, and I sat on their back porch working on a needlepoint dinosaur as I watched the 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 hour deep dives that came out one after the other going over the story. Tweet threads, leaked messages, videos of her live shows, and of course, the ukulele apology.
Take a look at what her apology video was like, because goddamn, from what I understand, it is one of the worst. I'm assuming this is going to be a decent apology, a somber one, I suspect. Okay, starts off silent. No, it's not going to be a somber one. She busted out the ukulele. Okay, so I was wrong. There's no way that this 10-minute video, 10 minutes of ukulele time? No shot. No fucking shot. She's going to put it down. She's going to put the ukulele down. Put the ukulele down.
Having fun. All aboard
the toxic gossip train. You're chugging down the tracks of misinformation.
station, the toxic gossip train. You got a one-way ticket to manipulation station. Toxic gossip train. Time you to the...
Do y'all have any idea what I'm watching right now?
So that was the thing that happened.
I'd heard of this creator before. My cousin used to watch her. Other than that, she wasn't under my radar. I didn't really care what she was doing. I wasn't particularly invested in her content or situation. But then this Not an Apology video came out, and everybody I watched was watching it. So the scandal breaks, right? And Colleen Ballinger can afford to have PR representatives and lawyers. She can afford to have people advise her on what to do and how to make it through this. Why didn't she listen to them? And I think that's what hits me every time I think about this, because the allegations are bad. The allegations are indefensible. But she picks up her ukulele and she sings about how she grooms her cat, and she calls the people who accuse her part of a toxic gossip train. Choo-choo, I guess. And like, okay, I get what she's going for. Y'all are liars and this is just weird gossip. Sure, I'm a wacky person, but it's all part of the show. I'm just a silly little guy. But why the ukulele? Videos discussing parasociality are a dime a dozen. If you want to be a YouTube video essayist, you need to make a video critiquing Parasocial. It's a rite of passage, you could say. And so I'd like to take a moment to lay some groundwork for the theory of, but why the ukulele? Because it has a lot to do with parasociality, and from that, authenticity. Typically, the critique of capitalism that comes from these videos stops with the idea that content creators want bigger audiences to make more money. And this is a valid position to hold. But I want to try approaching this a different way. You will recognize the idea of commodity fetishism most clearly in those late-night commercials selling strange products that people don't necessarily need. For example, the Snuggie. The Snuggie is a commercial product designed to be a combination of blanket and sweater. It has a long blanket section that drags on the floor. It's narrow for individual use, so you need to buy two. And it has sleeves and even a pocket on some models. The Snuggie is a useless, weird item, and you already have things around your house to better accommodate any of the needs that a Snuggie attempts to fill. But you don't have a Snuggie, do you? And a Snuggie is all the rage. A Snuggie is super practical. A Snuggie can solve those rare occasions where you specifically need a sweater blanket. Cue the camera roll of several situations that you probably find laughable that have never happened to you.
You want to keep warm when you're feeling chilled, but you don't want to raise your heating bill. Blankets are okay, but they can slip and slide. And when you need to reach for something, your hands are trapped inside. Now, there's the Snuggie, the blanket that has sleeves.
I'd like to take a moment here to acknowledge that while these as seen on TV type commercials are often staged ridiculously, disabled people are typically the consumer targets. People for whom the situations where a product like a Snuggie would come in useful are not laughable or ridiculous, but actually kind of normal. And these commercials are an attempt to market this item to a broader able-bodied group. But at the same time, the idea that this product fills needs that you don't personally seem to have, and the apparent invention of time in which you might need it, this is the core of commodity fetishism. Commodity fetishism comes out of the need to sell products, even if those products are useless or harmful or silly. And this is inherently ideologically aligned with capitalist ideology that tells us that the way we can achieve things is through our personal consumption of products that allow us to achieve established norms that have been created because of societal adaptation to the product. Think back to our discussion on transhumanism in Making My Peace, Speaking My Peace. So is Colleen Ballinger trying to sell me a ukulele? No. It's important to understand that social media does not simply operate as a commodity. Sure, there are subscription services and pay models, live shows where you might be welcomed on stage to become a part of the action, or ukulele-themed merch. But for the most part, these are free-to-access services, and within this model, the user is the commodity, rather than the social media itself. And this is the first way we must understand social media ecosystems. Viewer as product. We see this in the way that creators and platforms speak about viewers, the way that they celebrate subscriber milestones with different play buttons. We, the viewers, have become the commodity, and the algorithmic view count monitoring system is an example of commodity fetishism. We see commodity fetishism in action when a creator gravitates towards a few types of content and avoids others. As on gaming, when viewers are going to make the stream or content happen. Without viewers, there would be no content. I love all of my viewers and all that they contribute, so drop a like and subscribe and at me with your fan art. Understand that I'm not criticizing these elements as inauthentic. A key component of ideology is that we do not recognize how it operates in our lives. Ideology, like any technology, often becomes seamlessly integrated into our lives and values without our outward recognition that it occurs. It's entirely possible for a content creator to be genuinely grateful for their viewers' contributions to the content, but it's also a standard that creators express these sentiments, and if they don't, they will be seen as ungrateful for their audiences or spoiled by their success. Gratuitous performance of gratefulness is a measure of authenticity for audiences who demand a humble creator who doesn't forget their roots as a nobody until the audience came and lifted them out of obscurity. And if this sounds like an unhealthy dynamic, it probably is, and we should maybe stop to think about that. About the humbling that some audiences feel the need to do to creators. About the control they feel that gives them. If I was in a relationship with somebody who told me I could only afford to be housed because of them, y'all would probably tell me to get the fuck out. But if some rando comes into my stream, donates $5, and tells me to be grateful because without that money my life would be trash and I would be nobody, that's okay. In spite of the obsession with view count and follower count, a creator's income will not necessarily correlate to subscriber or views. We only have to remember for a moment that the word adpocalypse is a word, which describes the massive demonetization of content which occurred on YouTube in 2017. These sites may also refuse to pay out creators if income thresholds are not met. Twitch. And there is always the threat of copyright claims, both valid and false, which can shut down a channel altogether. Rest in peace, Hasanabi Industrial Clips Complex. Other things which can shut down your channel altogether are gratuitous violations of terms of service. So, Colleen Bollinger sees the news drop. Scandal erupts. Those metrics are in danger. That follower count is dropping. Lawyer says to keep quiet. Anything you do or say will be used in a court of law and all that jazz. But the follower count, the metrics. And sure, the massive income loss is probably sad too, but the loss of public opinion? People really like ukuleles, right? New media blurs the line between viewer and consumer. Remember, a micro-celebrity. With this shift from production studios like Warner Brothers or Disney or even Netflix to your dad or your cousin or you, a shift from corporate conglomerates who can afford numbers guys and audience pre-screamings. I like that. We can leave that in. A shift from corporate conglomerates who can afford number guys and audience pre-screenings to randos with $10 and an iPhone. We see the burdens of traditional media shifting onto the individual. Twitter is a micro-celebrity making site where traditional media and new media collide. Stars in your favorite shows on Netflix today are tweeting things that will get them fired tomorrow. Your favorite YouTuber or Twitch streamer is probably tweeting up a storm and getting canceled every third day of the week. It's a shitstorm! But there are also brands on Twitter, not just micro-celebrity brands, but like Wendy's. Unlike most fast food social media accounts, Wendy's logo has a face, so it's easier to think of her as a snappy comeback slay queen, which is why, while this type of content is incredibly memeable, it's not in the way that one would think. Or actually not in the way that corporations which created these accounts would like it to be. You see, Wendy's is not a girl named Wendy who wants to sell you hamburgers, but some rando being paid lots of money to manage a social media account. The Wendy's account might even be piloted by many randos being paid lots of money. The randos might not actually be paid that good of a money. But an important designation here is that they are a corporate employee working for a corporate brand that is trying to sell you burgers rather than the kid that your cousin bullied in high school who went viral for posting a video about throwing a shoe. They are run by a real person, but they are not a real person. This is a weird form of dissonance that occurs when things are both and but also neither nor. And we understand this both and neither nor because we are people of the internet, cultured individuals with peculiar tastes. This brand is trying to be #relatable.